Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Swampscott School Committee meeting of Thursday, March 26th. It is 6 o'clock. We're at Swampscott High School, room B121. We will be joined shortly by the Finance Committee. Their folks are coming in. It may just be maybe a half hour before the Finance Committee can join us, but to Eric and team, welcome. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Chime in. All right, with that, we'll come back to the Finance Committee. So I do call this meeting to order. And if you are so able, please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Is there anyone out there for public comment? Let's start in the room. Anyone in the room? We'll take that as a hard no. Anyone online, please raise your hand. We'd love to have you chat, say hello. We love public comment. Seeing no one. John, I don't see anyone. Do you see anyone?
Nope.
We do not see anyone, so we will.
Oh, wait a second.
Wait.
Glenn? We do have.
We do.
You got him? Hey, Glenn?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just me, but I'm experiencing, when I click on the link to join the meeting, it's saying, it's asking for a passcode that wasn't in the invite that went to FinCom. I don't know if anybody else is in the meeting successfully. A meeting passcode?
Okay, we'll just hang on with us for 1 second, everybody.
Do we right-click on them?
There's no passcode on it.
It's not letting me.
All right, let me.
You might, we want to try 447250.
So it's the person, Greg?
Hey, Greg, could you just hold on for 1 sec? Okay, we're having a little technical difficulties here. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, that worked, thank you.
You all set?
No, hold on. What was it again?
It's 447250.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
If you join from the town site, it should also.
Goes right in, okay.
Okay, great. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I see, Greg, you're out there. If you could just put on your camera, please. State your full name and the street you live on. All right, Greg, if you're talking, just hold on 1 sec.
Okay.
Okay. Greg, if you can hear us, can you just make sure your microphone is on?
I don't know, yeah. Could be my Greg from FinCom.
Oh,
He might have been having technical problems, I'm just guessing, but
okay, so that's your Greg.
could be.
All right, well, he took his hand down, that's good, and he logged out. Oh, no, you're still there.
But am I in?
Oh, she is, okay, good.
So if this is Greg from the FinCom, can you just text one of your members so we know it's just you? I shouldn't say just you, I didn't mean it that way. If it is Greg from a non-FinCom person, Greg, I promise we will come back to you. So while we're working on the technical difficulties, school committee comments. Ms. Wright, would you like to start us this evening?
I wish Sasha was here. I kind of wanted to know how the Black History event went on Tuesday night. I didn't get a chance to go, so kind of sad about that. Hopefully it was well attended, and it's always a great event. I missed it. And I'm curious how the robotics team did.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
I am too.
Also curious about how the robotics team did.
Yeah, you have any idea?
No other comment.
Okay.
Robotics, I know, did well. They got 9th place, I think it
Wow.
was.
Great.
So
Miguel.
I'm gonna save my voice, so no comments.
Okay, John.
I'm all set.
All right. Really, just for me, we're excited for President to talk tonight. You know, just a couple things. a lot of times, whether you're elected or you're an appointed position of the town, you hear, well, you always agree and you always disagree, and you look like you don't like each other. And I say all the time, that's absolutely not correct. I know Eric and I from the Finance Committee have spoken many, many times over the last several weeks and several months, as we also have spoken with the chair of the Select Board, Katie. We all get along great, actually, and we all really understand the challenge that this Commonwealth is facing right now. And we also all understand that there's only one bucket of money, and the money can only go so far, right? And if we all had this panacea of money, we wouldn't be having this problem. But at the same token, the four of us up here are elected as school committee members. Our job is to advocate for the schools. That's what we do. And if we don't do that, then we shouldn't be sitting up here. And I'm thankful that both Eric and Katie understand that, and just like I think we all understand that we at times have to do our part. And that's what we're trying to do. The discussion we'll have later is just explaining some questions about really, is how we come up with our numbers. And I think those were really good questions from the Finance Committee, questions that we should know and answer. So I think that's good. But I just want to remind the public that we all get along fine, right? It's just, there's sometimes we agree to disagree. At the end of the day, I think everyone is sitting in a chair here, is an elected official, is an appointed official who takes time out of their day, away from their families, to do this. They really, we all think that this is a great community, and we only want the best for this community. So I just want the public to know that whether you're sitting up here, whether you're sitting at home, everybody should have one goal, and that's to make this community the absolute best it can be, knowing that there are financial constraints. There just are. And we're very lucky as compared to some of the other places in the Commonwealth that I'm sure everyone's read. So that's just with me. Other than that, I'm happy to be here. So with that, we're just going to kind of skip over the beginning of the Finance Committee meeting. We'll wait on that, and I'm going to turn it over to the superintendent.
All right, great. So we'll skip over the 8th grade field trip to Washington, D.C., the sort of rite of passage, the yearly annual trip. The trip's running from June 2nd to June 5th this year. Right now we have 128 kids registered. Again, our goal is to anybody that wants to go. The team does an incredible job fundraising. We have private donations. They do a ton of fundraising to make sure that any kid that wants to go can go. And so there's 128 kids going this year, which is a great number, with 9 chaperones, 9 or 10 chaperones, an administrator, and a school nurse. So it's always, this is not, I say this all the time, this is not exactly luxury travel. This is, this is definitely a hard few days, but the kids love it. They get a ton out of it. We love it too. I mean, the teachers wouldn't do it if it wasn't such a great bonding experience. Plus, it's so educational. Right now, if, in the next couple months, you'll see as they get closer to the trip, the 8th grade hallway sort of turns into DC, especially Mr. Nicky's classroom, Mr. Rogers' classroom. They have all the information about the monuments and the memorials that they're going to go to see. And I always had it as sort of a point of pride that our kids were so well informed, always, and also would become a little bit judgy, like, I can't believe that person's on their phone. I can't believe they're talking during the change in the guard, which is great, because they feel that sort of heightened sense of responsibility and awareness when they're down there. So, yeah, so we're ready to go again.
Okay.
I'm not going, but they are ready to go again.
Wow. Jeez, you say that with such a smile on your face. All right. Does anyone have any questions about the DC trip?
I don't have any questions, but more of just a comment that I really love that we're doing the trip there, and also with the adjustments that we did at the high school around history with U.S. history, it really kind of continues the education through. Just because I know at the select board meeting, one of the things to increase civic engagement
Yes.
was lowering the voting age, and our students are literally learning all of it from 8th grade to 9th.
I wonder if I can interrupt for a second, just, I don't know if we even want to have this conversation. So, you kind of opened the door to the voting things, and since we do have a few minutes, I don't know if we, and I know it's not on the agenda, but I'm going to take the liberty as the acting chair to talk about it. You know, just so the public knows, there's several recommendations, several recommendations to voting in our community. And, you know, some people agreed with, some people didn't. We're in this unique position that we probably should have a voice one way or another. And I don't know if we want to chat about it tonight. I know that for me, I'd like to talk to just some professionals. We're in a school full of professionals. I'd be really interested to hear just what some of the high school teachers think. You know, the high school history, high school civics teachers think. And, you know, maybe at our next meeting, we can have a more, you know, a robust discussion about that. If for nothing else, if for no other reason, I think it's an interesting topic to have. I mean, I'd have no problem having, you know, the student reps should probably weigh in, because that potentially is going to affect them, you know, pro and con. So if everybody wouldn't mind, I wonder if we could just add that to the agenda, or we can chat about it now. Suzanne?
Yeah, I just want to say I was a part of that committee as the school committee liaison person. So I want to say I was really, really impressed. We had 2 students on our committee, right? And if they are any indication of the level of thoughtfulness and deliberation and capability, I mean, certainly it's a no-brainer that for town elections, or for, you know, this isn't for federal or state voting. This is strictly for town voting. I think it dovetails really well in our history curriculum and in a civics curriculum. It makes so much sense. And I mean, our student reps are incredibly mature and thoughtful. And I think we had a lot of discussions in our meetings about hot and cold cognition, and about how you know, we keep saying, well, brains aren't developed until 25 or whatever, but that's for hot cognition. That's for you know, impulsive decisions and peer pressure types of things. It's not for deliberate decisions. Like, we know, I mean, you know, back when my kids were in U.S. history, I mean, the Socratic seminars were the thing, right? I mean, they still are. And kids are capable of weighing pros and cons and both sides of the options aisle, and role-playing things and thinking critically about a lot of things. They do it, you know, in their courses, and they're capable of it. And when they're given time and space and not pressure, they can make fantastic decisions, right? So that's the cognition they have by 16. Mm-hmm. So you know, and I want to give our students the due they deserve. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm obviously in favor of the recommendations from the committee, since I was on the committee. But I think it would be interesting to hear from the teachers, and I think we'll hear how mature kids are, and the kids that aren't ready to vote probably won't be voting anyway. So that was my 2 cents.
Yeah, definitely agree. And just like everybody knows, it's just a recommendation. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, or it's going to get approved or move forward. It's just talking the possible scenario through. Since 16 is when a lot of things change for you as an individual anyways. We trust them with getting jobs. They have to get their own fishing license at that point. We also trust 2 of the students to be here on the committee and provide a voice of the student body. So I feel like it's just kind of a continuation of making sure that the students that are in the town can actually see the change from the votes that they might be able to do. But right now they can see from what we are doing. even with the last select board meeting, there were high school students from the track team for public comment. So we have plenty of young adolescents that are wanting to participate more in our local government, and it is just local. So I would love to see that recommendation through, but I know that not really up to us.
John?
So, actually, I have a question for Suzanne. So, the committee made a recommendation. Where does that recommendation go from there?
No, it was the select board appointed committee,
Yep.
right? So the select board have everything. So the recommendations were made to the select board, and the select board will decide which of the recommendations get adopted or not.
Okay,
So that's.
It's up to them to either adopt this or not?
Yeah, it's not in our hands at all, but we could have a voice in helping make the decision to the select board if that were something they asked for or something we wanted to preempt with.
Okay, do we know if they're even, is this something they're going to entertain, or is,
No, well, this is, that they just were presented
yeah,
They were
with the
presented
recommendations at the last.
11 different options for things.
Yeah, and they can take them all or not, right? It was just a committee that was asked for by town meeting when the
I remember that.
discussion came up to have, 16-year-olds or 17-year-olds vote in, it was really 17 and 18-year-olds at the time, vote in elections.
Okay,
Yeah, no, it's just with the select board.
thanks.
So candidly, I'm not sold on the idea whatsoever. However, I think, have done this long enough that that's why I want to really hear from the educators. You know, they live it every day. You know, to me, I think one of the more important, excuse me, that was incorrect, I was impolite. One of the other recommendations that I think is just as important is moving the town elections. And let me explain why. Is, you know, right now, you know, for this year, once Ms. O'Connor resigned, we could have had 3 new people on this board. And, you know, let's talk budget, and, you know, we've already done our budget, and that's okay. But if it was 3 select board members, 3 new people coming in cold, 3 new people maybe coming in with an agenda, they could have completely changed the trajectory that had been worked on for months and months and months. And that's why I think if anything's going to be adopted, the moving of the election day to, you're not changing everything right before town meeting, when everyone's worked really hard on X numbers, you know, to that. I am a little leery of, although I understand from a financial point of view, as having it on National Election Day. For us here, I think it's a little bit of a challenge because, you know, you're almost 3 months into the school year, and, you know, there's been a rhythm going on, and, you know, in years that, you know, excluding this year where there was 3, the years that there are 2, that those 2 people starting on the school committee potentially are really behind the 8 ball. And I think that will take an exorbitant amount of time from the superintendent to potentially bring those 2 people up to speed.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, is there another answer? I don't really know, but I do know that I think if there were 3 openings on the select board, that could be a real problem in my eyes. So I think the election does need to be moved, you know, beyond town meeting, so the people who have worked on it for a year aren't, and have decided, well, I'm not going to run, or whatever happens. You have this new group who's not, although they're vested, they're not really vested. They don't have the you know, the footsteps on their back from talking about the budget. So that's just me. But anyways, it would be interesting to hear from all parties. It's a really interesting topic. You know, it is. And the thing, as Suzanne said, we have these, you know, although they're not here this evening, these 2, you know, great young adults who add so much to what we do here and help us at least maintain some semblance of understanding of what's going on, especially in this building. It'll be good. Anyways, I didn't mean to jump all over that, sorry. I'll pass it back to you, and I'll be quiet now.
Okay. So that's I mean, that sums up the DC trip. You're going to vote
Yeah,
later?
we'll vote later.
Okay. And at this time, Mr. Casper's here to talk about the potential of a statement of interest for the middle school.
Glenn, just to let you where we have, you can keep doing that, but
You're
Cindy
set?
joined.
Oh.
We do have six, we have,
Well, let's just keep going.
You want to keep going?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
just not gonna be long. Do you guys wait, do you mind waiting?
yeah, it's fine.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. We met a few meetings back and gave a presentation on the statement of interest process and provided some updates on the, sort of the status of the middle school. At that time, we weren't requesting a vote. It was just sort of a first reading, let you get acquainted with the concept. So we don't have a formal presentation tonight, but obviously happy to take any questions. But we, are hoping that you will vote on the statement of interest tonight. You would be authorizing the superintendent to submit the statement of interest prior to the deadline of April 17th. We have been in discussions with Town Hall and Select Board. We will be on the Select Board agenda for April 8th to meet with them for this very same purpose. As we discussed before, both the school committee and the Select Board needs to authorize the superintendent to submit a statement of interest. That's an absolute prerequisite. And again, happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Max. You want anything to add to that?
I think Max summed it up. Everybody knows the pressing issue with the middle school, and we're hoping for the support to move forward. It doesn't mean this is, yes, we're doing it, that we're going to get in. It's just sort of the first step in the process.
Great. Let's go around. John, any thoughts about this?
Max, if I remember right from a couple meetings back when you presented on this, even getting the letter in by April 17th, I mean, things could be years out, like 2 years out before anything even happens. Do I remember that correctly? So
Yes.
This is a very lengthy process, I guess is where I'm going.
That's correct. I think on the timeline, there's kind of two sort of things to be very cognizant of right now. First off, flashback to the elementary school project. The timeline from when this vote happened then to when the school opened was about 7 years. So that's a really important number. And then the other one is about 2 years. So the timeline is at the end of this calendar year, we would understand if we've been sort of accepted. And then our eligibility period would start early next year. And then towards the end of next year, we would start our first module, the eligibility period, where we're forming the school building committee, going to the town requesting funding for feasibility. So there's really like a 2-year period that we're just getting this whole process going. And that's if we even get accepted on our first time that we're applying.
All right, yeah, thank you for that refresh. I remember it was quite lengthy, but that's very helpful
Of course.
for that context.
You go.
Yeah, no, that was going to be my question is if we submit this, it's like, are we submitting it to try to get approved, which it sounds like we are. So even if this goes forward, we could still be rejected. So this is just to kind of start the paperwork of the process. No money is changing or anything like that, just yet.
Exactly, yep.
Great. Suzanne?
I was kind of reading the draft. Is that okay to talk about?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just wondering, in the first section, do we know what we're checking off for the statutory priorities?
Yes, we do, and that is important. That's one thing that is sort of definitive in the draft, because your vote and the vote language that we've provided says the priorities. And just give me a minute to pull that up.
Like, there's just nothing checked in the draft I'm looking at.
The vote language that you have for tonight states priority 5 and priority 7.
Max, can you just read that so it's on the record?
The full vote language or the
No, just the
priorities?
5 and 7.
Yep, priority 5 is replacement, renovation, or modernization of school facility systems such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating and ventilation systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs in a school facility. Priority 7 is replacement of or addition to obsolete building in order to provide for full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for that. And also, can I just give you my notes if you, when you're editing?
Absolutely,
Like
yep, but we're
like,
still,
just looked at a few things that, and I know, lucky you, just got the 1958 school report
you.
that I had.
absolutely, we'd welcome notes.
Okay. Yeah, I just see like maybe some places to beef up some stuff. Anyway, I mean, as someone who's been through this, can't agree more that this needs to happen. And to your point last time, we're gonna spend the money with the MSBA or without the MSBA, because we have failing systems, right? So they have to get fixed.
Great. Thank you, Suzanne. I think all of us sitting up here are completely in agreement of this. It is really important that, you know, the folks who do this moving forward and the select board, as everybody has to be on the same page, from the town administrator to the finance committee to the select board, school committee, residents in town. And so, yeah, although it's, you know, from today's till 7 years from now until you hope you have a building, a lot of work has to be done to make sure that everyone is in agreement, to make sure that the finance committee is comfortable that we can afford it, and, you know, make sure we have enough votes to win. So I appreciate the beginning of the work. I remember, you know, in my losing effort, sitting at this select board meeting. I think this is great. Suzanne, thank you for volunteering to make some changes. The only thing I'll read is just because it's just really interesting. I was just reading this earlier. Just a brief history of the building. I was going to read for the record. The middle school, well, the building, was originally built in 1958 as the Alice Shaw Junior High School. The original building was approximately 100 square feet. There was a significant addition built in 1977 that added about 80,000 square feet, making the building approximately 180,000 square feet. The 1977 addition added the current library, doubled the size of the gymnasium and cafeteria, and added science classrooms and a shop wing. The building was used as a high school after the addition until 2007, when the building transitioned to its current use as Swampscott Middle School. So it's old, and it's, you know, it's been through a lot. So I think this is a good first step. I wish everyone the best of luck going forward. So, thank you. Appreciate that. You got any more questions for Max? Okay. All right. Well, that's yours. Sorry about that. No, it's mine. Sorry. All right. Got so excited there, I lost my agenda. Hold on. Sorry. Here we go. All right. Any subcommittee chatter this evening? All right, there's no subcommittee chatter. So with that, we are going to take some votes, and then we'll circle back to the Finance Committee. So we're going to start with a memorandum of agreement between the Swampscott Education Association and the school committee. This was discussed during our most recent negotiations, which is there were a couple of things we had to work out, and we have to vote this in. I'm just going to read this here. Effective August, this is a memorandum of agreement between the Swampscott Education Association and the Swampscott School Committee, effective August 1st, 2025. The undersigned parties agree to modify Appendix B of the SEA agreement as follows. Special Education Team Chair for the 2025-26 school year. The parties agree to adjust the Special Education Team Chair stipends, and that's in there. Special Education Team Chairs will follow the job description as amended by the SEA and the Swampscott School Committee. We appreciate the SEA. This is just one of those things that during a large negotiation across 3 different units that we had to just put it on hold. Everyone agreed, and then we are just now getting back to that. So with that, we do have to take a vote, and because we're voting on a memorandum of agreement with the SEA, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote. Suzanne?
Yes.
Go.
Wait, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I vote yes, too, and it is unanimous. Would you like me to sign this?
Yes, please.
All right, that's for you. All right, next is, can we have a vote, please, about what Mr. Casper talked about, the Swampscott Middle School MSBA Statement of Interest, step 1 of 10 million steps. Can someone please
No,
make?
do you have the language we're supposed to read for that? It's
Oh, yeah.
pretty specific.
You're right,
for
you
the
are
MSBA.
right. Is that provided? Thank you, Susan. It's really good having you on the board. You know what? This could be a challenge. I know it was sent. It's not in my packet. In your packet by chance?
It's probably in the drive. Hold on.
Yeah, hold on. I'm going to ask everyone just to hang on for a minute.
Can I read it?
Oh, there we go. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you, Suzanne. That would have been an embarrassing thing. So, as I was just saying, we're going to vote on the statement of interest, and I have to read this exactly. Resolved, having convened in an open meeting on March 26, 2026, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the School Committee of Swampscott, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated April 2026 for the Swampscott Middle School located at 207 Forest Ave, which describes and explains the following deficiencies in the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. Priority 5, replacement, renovation, or modernization of school facility systems such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating and ventilation systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs in a school facility. Priority 7, replacement of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements. Building deficiencies include aging, failing or non-existent building systems such as HVAC, electrical, plumbing, accessibility, fire suppression, building envelope, security, and interior finishes, and hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting the statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the town of Swampscott to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. Thank you again, Suzanne. Can someone,
Motion to approve.
thank you, someone second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It is unanimous. Good luck. Sorry about that. Thank you, John. All right. We did that. Now the field trip. Can someone please
I'll
make,
make a motion to approve the 8th grade Washington field trip.
thank you, Suzanne. Someone second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, there are none. That all passes unanimous. All right, we have 2 donations. We have,
The statement of interest is on here twice, but can I just make a motion? Oh, wait, never mind. We didn't vote in executive session to approve those minutes, did we?
No, we did. Yes.
Okay, sorry.
That was the
Yeah.
only motion we did.
um,
But I do want to make a motion of combining donation E, F, and G into the consent agenda.
thank you. So before we do that, though, let me read the donations, and then we can do that, just so we can have
Can I
that.
ask a question before you read them?
Absolutely.
So, we have an amateur radio club now at the high school?
Ham, I think it's ham radio, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah.
Who's running it?
I'm not sure. Find out.
Is it, like, there's a teacher's name on Cassidy, maybe is on the, no, I think that's really cool.
Just more awesome programs we had here. All right, so I have a bunch of these to read, so. So the first one is funds donated by teachers Rogers, Sweeney, and,
Mr. Casey is runs the ham radio.
I'm sorry, I don't want to.
Zernicki.
And Zunicki, thank you, are donating money for the trip to Washington DC. Oh, that's, never mind. Sorry, can't take me anywhere. Start again. Now we're to the ham radio. Sorry about that. So the position of science teacher, amateur radio club advisor, and this donation is made by, I don't know. Oh, here we go.
The amateur radio.
Thank you. Advisor,
AARL is the Amateur Radio Relay League.
thank you. The donor is Alan Klein, and he is an alumnus, and he donated $200. Very nice. Ham radio books, Morse code trainer kits, circuit boards to assemble and solder, and speakers. That's great. We appreciate that donation, and I'd like to know more about that club and at our next meeting. That's really cool. To Mr. Klein, thank you very much for making that donation. We have one more also. This is for, again, the American Radio Relay League, ARRL. Stephen Goodgame, the ARRL Education and Learning Director. And the ARRL is based out of Connecticut. They donated $325. And the grant is, donation is AARL, which again is American Radio Relay League. Ham Radio License Manual, 5th edition, some technical licenses. There are 10 copies. And this is, I guess, for, so the students can take a test in June. That's excellent. That's very nice. So I really want to learn more about this. Thank you very much. That was very kind of you. That was a very kind donation.
I'll make a donation to accept both donations to the American Radio.
Oh, you know, I have one more.
There's
Oh,
three.
there's 3 of them?
There's 3.
Yeah. The next one's for the power supply.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
wow.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Again, this is another donation from the American Radio Relay League, Education and Technology Grant Program. Again, ARRL is based out of Newington, Connecticut. This is a grant for $2,000. Wow. Radio equipment to set up an amateur radio station here at Swampscott High School, including 2 transceivers, and all the transceiver things that go into that. Power supply, radios, distribution hub, and again, it's for the amateur radio club station. It's a grant. Wow, that is so cool. That is, they have to come in and tell us.
I'll email Mr. Casey.
Yeah. Mr. Casey, we look forward to hearing from you. So that's 3. Go ahead, Suzanne, now you can.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to approve 2 donations and the 1 AARL grant, all for the Amateur Radio Club.
Great,
Second.
thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it passes unanimously. All right. Okay, I think that's everything. Now we can go to the consent agenda. We have to give me a second to go over to read my consent agenda.
We don't really have a consent agenda, but let's make that let's make
Yeah.
all the minutes into a consent agenda.
Yeah, give me a sec here.
Like, I make a motion to merge H, I, J, K, and L minutes into one item.
Second.
All right, you know, I just, for the argument's sake, let me just read this. Keep saying-
Well, do you want to?
Oh, yeah, right,
Are
so.
we going to
you're-
do it, yes or
yeah,
no?
Yeah,
I say yes.
Yes.
all those in favor? Aye, okay. Now I can read my little consent agenda thing. Not organized tonight at all, I apologize for that. You know, and the consent agenda language is not on here.
I don't think we have it on this minutes.
Hold on. When do you guys have an old?
I was just looking at it.
All right, let me look. Sorry, everybody. Ugh,
Are you looking for consent agenda language?
yeah. My computer's not working well, so if one of you guys can pull that up. It's like a cacophony of errors tonight. Thank you, Joe. Okay.
Do you want me to read it?
I got it.
Got it.
Oh, okay.
The consent agenda is designed to expedite, which is rather hysterical tonight, the handling of routine and miscellaneous business of the district. School committee may adopt the entire consent agenda in motion at the request of any committee member. Any item or items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda for discussion. Okay. So with that, because I am here, items on the consent agenda are, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because easily could be, regular session minutes of March 12th, school committee workshop minutes of July 22nd, subcommittee budget meeting of the whole, January 9th, subcommittee budget meeting of the whole, November 7th, 2024, and school committee workshop minutes of October 8th, 2024.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Thank you. Someone second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And it's unanimous. Okay. Sorry for that delay. So now, without further ado, one of the major purposes we're here today is have a joint meeting with the Finance Committee. And Eric, you want to call your folks to order?
Sure, I call the March 26th, 2026 Finance Committee meeting to order.
All right. Okay. So, we are going to have this meeting. Finance Committee has been working with the school committee to answer they had some questions that they wanted answered. And we have a little bit of a presentation. So, Eric, do you want to start, or do you want us to start? Would you like to do this?
I'll just say a few words, I guess. I mean, so Finance Committee has been, you know, working and going through the school budget for quite some time, a couple different rounds. As you said, we sent some initial questions in, and Cheryl and team answered those. And we've had additional meetings and discussions. We sent another round of questions in. I think we've had some of those answered. I think maybe there's some more, like you said, you're going to maybe present on the rest of them. One of the kind of things that you and I talked about the other day, Glenn, was kind of recognizing a couple things about the school budget. One is that we recognize that most of it is, you know, under a collective bargaining agreement, right? And that removes some level of, you know, decision-making or flexibility, absence staffing increases or decreases, right? A lot of those costs are going to be driven by what the CBA says. But there's also a lot of costs and, I guess, revenue sources, too, in the school budget that we all know are very, very difficult to project and forecast for a variety of reasons. So that was kind of the more recent ask when Glenn and I were speaking the other day, that I would say it's probably one of the things that Finance Committee members struggle with the most. Just keeping in mind that, you know, part of our responsibility is to be standing up in front of town meeting and be confident to recommend the school budget, right, as part of the overall budget. So if in the back of our mind, we're like, we know there's all these uncertainties, and we don't really feel comfortable that we really know the methodology or really it's like the level of risk that you guys might have assumed when you made those decisions.
Right.
Because at some point you have to pick each one of those categories and say, not sure what it's gonna be, but I'm gonna put X in the budget.
Right.
And we don't know if you erred on the side of being really conservative and having too much money or not enough money, you know, so that's kind of the thing that I think gives a lot of us the most, you know,
Right.
challenge getting overall comfort with the budget.
Right.
You know, without getting into, we're not looking to get into every dollar. That's not
Right.
our goal here. It's more,
Right.
that's a bit of a black hole for us. And
Right.
like you said, you know, there's a lot of funding sources, grants, you know,
Right.
decisions that get made that can impact those dollars.
Right. I completely agree, and that's one of the things that we all talked about as well is, you know, one of the good questions that Eric just said, and he asked too, is we want to make sure that we don't underfund ourselves, as you said, because that's almost worse. Because, you know, that could cause a much larger problem than the other thing. And so, you know, our goal tonight is to try to explain and make everyone as, you know, comfortable as they can. This is probably not going to be the end of the discussion. I don't assume it would be. But I think this is a really good place to have it. We wanted to have it in open session so the Finance Committee could, you know, comfortably ask their questions. If there's something we don't know, we'll definitely get back to the Finance Committee. And again, you know, some of the select board members also had the same, you know, it's just same general questions. So it's going to be really an open, honest discussion, and we'll take it from there. And that's why, as I mentioned, my first comment is everyone here has one goal, and that is to spend all our dollars, not only the school budget but the town budget, wisely, and make sure that we are protected and for us, our students and the teachers are protected, and at the same time, make sure that taxpayer dollars are spent the way the taxpayer dollars are.
Yeah, and just to say a couple more words on something you said earlier that I meant to capitalize on, but you talked about all the challenges that are across the Commonwealth. We see our schools and different our neighbors and everything having similar financial challenges, and we know we have the statement of interest item that we just rolled up, right? So we know that our preliminary overall town budget, school and town altogether, is calling for use of excess levy in the current form. We've been going through rounds of reductions. So that's why I think this year is especially important that we look at everything and we understand everything, because to your point, we don't want to have multiple overrides if we're going to have overrides, and that would put your other project at risk. So I think this is a bit of a different year than, you know, what other years might be like. Not that other years have been easy, but this is especially hard because we have a dwindling excess levy capacity. So
yeah, and you know, the other thing too is it's in everyone's face every day, with, as you said, other communities.
Yeah.
And you know, we're not in any position right now to ask for an override until if we decide to build a school. That's when we are going to have to ask for an override, obviously. And so if we can get to that point without an operational override, we'll have a much better chance of convincing the taxpayers, you know, we've watched every dollar. So I think everyone's in agreement with that. And so we turn it over to Cheryl?
I'm actually going to start the
I'm sorry,
presentation,
Jason.
so
My
it's
apologies.
okay. Miguel, do you mind?
It's all you.
Miguel's going to pull it up. Let's just go slide 2. So our budget philosophy and priorities. Our proposed budget serves as a roadmap for sustained academic excellence, prioritizing student success, engagement, while remaining firmly anchored in fiscal responsibility. By optimizing our current resource allocation and focusing on key growth areas, we aim to deliver a high return on investment for our taxpayers. Our mission is clear: to ensure that every public dollar is leveraged to its fullest potential, fostering a school system that serves as a cornerstone of value to the Swampscott families. We accomplish this by building our budget from the bottom up. This is a process we undertake every fiscal year. All positions and expenditures are examined to determine if they meet the current student demographics, state and federal mandates, and align with our strategic goals for the district. Through this process, we were able to make reductions in the following areas: an MLL teacher, an administrative assistant, a bus in our METCO program, and one of the outside providers for an alternative pathway at Essex Tech. Next slide. Our key priorities that could be delayed is we've been talking about this for a long time, but the health teacher at the Swampscott Middle School, an additional teacher at SMS to ensure appropriate class sizes, continuation of our innovative pathways programs at Swampscott High School, with investments in our current pathways and the introduction of a possible new pathway, TV, media, and design, the continued build-out of MTSS, our multi-tiered systems of support, and investment in professional development and high-quality instructional materials.
Jason, can I just ask, what do you mean by could be delayed? Are they in the budget, or are they not in the budget, or what does that mean?
You want to take that one?
So these are items that were in the original budget at 3.96.
Okay.
And now that we're at 3.25, these are priorities or budget items that potentially we might not fill. And the reason why we don't know specifically which one of these or a combination of them is that it's really going to come down to once, you know, we hit July, that's when we'll have a better sense of where is the highest need within the district, right? Because, you know, we might say today it's I'm just going to say health teacher at SMS, right? But then we might get a whole bunch of students coming into 5th grade. So then rather than cutting the 5th grade teacher and keeping the health teacher, we're going to cut the health teacher and keep the 5th grade teacher. And so it's going to be some combination of these, but we can't tell you as we stand today what exactly is ultimately going to happen. And it goes back to, as we talk about, that the needs of the district kind of are always in flux. And so we know something will be cut. We don't know exactly what as it stands today.
Okay, so in some way, you reduced the funding that you originally had for this group of teachers or whatever it is, yeah?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, understood, thank you.
Okay. Future needs that we could be looking to fund are increased leadership capacity by administrators, continued investment in high-quality instructional materials, growing our own career pathways, implementation of state competence determination for requirements for high school graduation, expansion of AP and elective courses at Swampscott High School, and again, continued investment in that multi-tiered system of support.
We have a question. I can't let him in. I'm not a host.
It's Greg.
It's Greg again?
Yeah, that was our Greg.
Okay.
Yeah.
Greg, you should be able to unmute and talk.
Greg, if you're talking, we don't hear you. Can we, are we working okay up there? Okay.
You want me to keep going while we
Yeah.
wait? It's a pretty brief presentation, so.
Okay.
Enrollment assessment. So it's based on current enrollment, incoming Nahant students, kindergarten registration, and anticipated enrollment at private schools in Essex Tech. We are considering, we've given tours and have a conversation with families about returning to the district. Our enrollment is trending up post-COVID, while many other districts, almost every other district, is going in a decline. So something we're very proud of, that we have kids coming back. Staffing and budget decisions are based on enrollment by grade and programs, current student needs. Again, this can adjust, as you know, adjustments can happen daily due to IEP meetings and enrollment changes, program requirements, school district priorities, and state mandates. We use data from open architects to determine programmatic needs. This budget reflects a reduction of 1 FTE from last year, meaning staffing is decreasing overall. Decisions are based on district and student profiles and mandated services, not assumptions. We have a decrease in our ELL students, leading to a reduction in that department. Again, back to the multi-tiered systems of support, increasing investment due to positive results. I'll get to those positive results in a different slide. And we're increasing the test scores in our bottom 25%. This is anticipated to lead to fewer students on IEPs. High school-
You can advance the slide. I think we're on an old slide on the,
What was that?
I think the slide might need to advance.
Oh, I'm sorry. Miguel? Okay.
Yeah.
We're at
And before you keep going, Greg, can you just sign out and back in, and that should fix your mic issue on your end? You can keep going.
Okay. The high school alternative pathways, we're seeing this increased trend, which keeps students in the district. Our current pathways are business and finance and advanced manufacturing, and we're looking to potentially add a third pathway of TV, media, and design. Next slide, sorry about that. Ms. Raymond, do you want to talk about the special ed side?
Sure. So I know there were some questions about how we make our assumptions and decisions about the budget when we freeze them. So for the tuition, right now we did get notice that the tuition for private schools and residential programs is increasing by 3.04%. But there are, just so people know, there are mid-year increases at times when a private school goes through restructuring, and that did actually happen this year, and we had a significant increase to one of our out-of-district programs that happened mid-year. So that we have no control over. Notice comes, I think this year it came in January, and that was not budgeted for. But obviously we have ways to support that through circuit breaker, because it can happen. Our collaborative programs, we had predicted at 3 to 5%, but actually they've come in now between 8 and 12%. That was not in my original projection with Cheryl, but it's been rolled into, obviously we know the amount now, but that has gone up. Again, comes after our budget process. Our cost prediction is based on actual students and current placements, and then anticipated risk for new out-of-district placements. Obviously, as the school year progresses and time progresses, that risk drops and drops for that particular school year. As the days go by, there's less time that a student may be out of district. Trends, costs are up year to year, though I will say we've had some flattening in our tuition in the last several years, especially after that 14% increase. It's now about 3% is much more reasonable for the private school increases this year, so there's been a little bit of a flattening, which is good. The best predictor for us is historical data. So we integrate that with our known information. So I have not had a year since I've been doing this. I've been here 2016. I've been working in my position. I've not had it go down, but it has definitely flattened, which is good. Just for reference, I think this year we're at about 4.7 million for out-of-district tuition, but just on the high end, any one student, so if a student moved in, that number could fluctuate by about 7%. That's one student. Just so you know the risk that could be up or down is about that. Transportation is based on the contract, so we do know that for one run what the daily cost is, but the unknown variable is which is a cost savings for us. We do belong to, we have a SEAM contract, so there's the SEAM Collaborative actually coordinates our placements for transportation, and what they do is they combine runs with other towns, but we don't know that information because it changes monthly. So a student may, I might have one student who's in a certain program in September, and then in another town that another student goes to that same program in November. And I won't know that now, wow, we have a shared run, that cost drops in half, so the two towns share it, but I don't know that until I get the invoice.
Okay, so how did you budget then for transportation? With all that, you just said?
Historical.
So historical average with
Yep.
an increase, because it normally goes up a little?
Historical average, and that's it. I've not had that go down either.
Okay.
But I will say, I know you were asking a question about how risky we are. Last year, I came in under 1% of prediction, so that's pretty.
On all the things you're responsible for, or are you just talking transportation?
On tuition.
On tuition, okay. Yep, okay.
So pretty
Yeah.
good. I mean, also, we haven't come to we haven't been in a position where we've also never had to get extraordinary relief. There is a mechanism that if your out-of-district tuitions increase by 25% from one year to the next, you can go to the state to get circuit breaker reimbursement for that year. We have not ever been in that position, but it is available as a mechanism because it could happen for a district. Let's see, unknown variables. Like I said, that was the trends. Costs are up year to year. one student's placement could change or cause a bump up or down as high as 7%. Again, that is an unpredictable factor that we have, but basically those are historical trends or what we use to predict.
So can I ask a question? And again, Eric and I have talked a lot. Martha, as you go through these numbers, how do you make a determination? So we have X students in the special ed category. How do you kind of calculate that to come up with a budget number?
There's many factors that we take into consideration, and I guess I would just point to the fact that I came under 1% last year, and so the factors we're using are working.
Right.
And Cheryl and I are in very close communication, but I wouldn't, the factors are many in particular to just individual students, but we know what they are, and we do a good job assessing risk.
Right. Yeah, that's not even a question.
Yeah.
How do we account for students who may be coming into district, whether they're 3 or, let's start with that group. So, because we have to educate 3 to 22. How do we account for those new students coming in as we make this budget? How do we account for those?
It's pretty rare that we would have a student go out of district from the early childhood level. It has happened in my career, and that's a long time. That's now 25 years I've been here because I was the former preschool. I've had it happen to me one time. And that would be for an extraordinary circumstance.
Right.
Like a student, for instance, with medically fragile student. So real significant issues.
Was this example a new student moving in, Glenn, or?
These are students we don't know about, so
just
0
yeah.
to 2, year 0 to 3, so we don't, they will be referred in. Early intervention, so students in early intervention, they're required to refer those students to us within 90 days of
Right.
their turning 3, so we do have some information.
Right.
And those would be students of higher level need anyway,
Yeah.
because they've already been accessing services through the state. So we do have that information.
So would that mean that since it's very rare, the way you're saying it, that you probably don't budget for that would be
That's
something
correct.
you'd let fall to first circuit breaker monies or whatever?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
correct. It would be extraordinarily rare. We have a really good preschool program that is, that we're able to really support any student, which is good. But there could be a circumstance, but I don't put that in. That would be,
Yeah.
I wouldn't budget for that at the
Yeah.
moment. There is some protective feature so that if a student for move-in, so a student who would move into Swampscott that maybe already is in an out-of-district placement, if they move in prior to April 1st, we will incur that expense, but not till the next fiscal year. If they move in after April 1st, we would not incur that expense the next fiscal year, but we would the year after. So that's a protective feature that the state has implemented so that, obviously we wouldn't have had that in the budget.
Yeah.
So it is protective. So that is one feature that we
So
do
you'd get extra circuit breaker to cover those costs, or you just?
You wouldn't, so if a student, for instance, moved in after April 1 this year that had an out-of-district placement for next year, we would be we would be responsible programmatically, which means we would attend meetings, but the sending district would be fiscally responsible. We would not have that expense until the following year, so that does allow some predictability for the budget.
But that also can happen to us too. Like someone could,
Right.
that could happen to us too.
A student
Right.
could move, yes,
Like,
if a
we could
student
be
have moves
responsible for
after April 1, we
Right.
will be paying for that student, even though I guess we wouldn't be collecting, and they wouldn't be collected in our account either.
Right.
Because they would not be, we wouldn't be programmatically responsible, but we would be fiscally. So there are some protective features to get some stability.
Great. So again, just to reiterate, that you guys came within just that 1%, is that what you're saying? That's pretty good?
Last year.
Last year?
I've never gone over the prediction. So, we've not ever gone beyond what we predicted. would
Great.
happen.
All right,
Awesome.
thank you.
All right, the next slide, Miguel. This is just some slides about sort of how our investments are working. This is that MTSS model that we were talking about, those targeted instruction groups, as well as our Tier 1 instruction. But if you can see that our grade level K to 4 in English and math have increased significantly, and in 5 and 6 as well, in grades 5 and 6 as well. So we feel like the results are promising and things are working. The next slide, Miguel, please, is our pathways again at the high school. We're trying to keep kids here. We don't want them to go to Essex Tech because we don't have something for them. So we have the advanced manufacturing, which has been a huge success, business and finance, and like I said, we are hoping to eventually add the TV, media, and design.
Can I ask a question? Although this doesn't come out of our budget, this comes out of the town budget, which again is all the same. Can you talk to us a little bit about, and I know we've talked about it before, but just because we have a pretty big audience tonight, talk a little bit about Essex Tech and, maybe a little historical about the number of students and how that affects the overall town budget.
Yeah. So I believe it was 2 years ago, we only had 2 kids go. It really depends on the class, on the cohort. That was when kids were interviewing and they were sort of picking and choosing who they took. It was the top tier kids, students that were successful, and they were checking attendance and discipline, and now it's a lottery. So now there's, I believe it's 28 seats, and if 28 Swampscott kids want to go, they can go.
It's a minimum, correct?
That's the minimum, yes. I actually pushed back. We went to a meeting at Essex Tech. I went with Ms. Kent, and we sort of looked, we sort of were fighting for the little guy a little bit. The cities and Salem's and Beverly's and PBC, they wanted to reduce their number as well, and they were coming out of the lens of sort of like, well, it's unfair to the small towns. And I was saying, no, it's okay, we'll take the small number. And they changed our number from, I believe it was it 13 to 28. Which is gonna cost the town, I believe it's another $100,000. So it is important and vital for us to try to keep these kids here.
And then, I think you said this before, but if we do fill up all of those students and the big towns do not, those can kind of come back around and the number could increase beyond.
The number could increase, correct. Yep. Again, this year was sort of, I had never seen that many kids apply and go. 28's a large number. Like I said, 2 years ago, it was either 2 and I think 1 came back. So I think we have 1 kid there. So I'm hoping that it was an off year and that we can keep our kids in district. And then the next slide, Miguel, is the open architects that we're using to this data platform. It's used to support and inform decisions for staff and students. We have 13 dashboards looking at enrollment, we're looking at attendance, grades, and the state and local assessment results. And then my last slide. We would like to thank the town of Swampscott for continuing to support the Swampscott Public Schools. Your investment in our district has allowed us to continue to make improvements, enhance programs, support our students and families, ensure that our school system continues to be a source of pride in the entire community. This budget is a careful balance between fiscal responsibility, meeting the needs of each student, and shifting resources to meet the needs of our students as well. Our goal as a district is to provide students with an education that will provide them with the skills they need to be a positive and successful member of this community while maintaining fiscal responsibility. I can't say that enough. Here are a few ways that we've done our part. Proactively reaching out to the town to rescind the $400,000 free cash transfer to the Special Education Reserve Stabilization Fund. We've increased athletic fees, clubs, and preschool tuition, and we proactively reduced the budget request from 396 to the 3.25.
Great. Thank you. You want to move on, Cheryl, to the 4 questions that
You want me to verbally answer the?
Say it again?
So how do you want to go from here? Because you guys had some questions. You want to talk about those, or what do you guys want to talk about? What else can we answer for you?
Well, we can do that. I mean, I think we sent the questions in advance with the thought of giving you guys some advance warning kind of thing.
Okay.
We can talk through those if we're prepared to. If not, it's kind of up to you, Cheryl, if you feel you're ready to do that, but.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Sure.
Okay,
We
great.
can do that.
Yeah, so I think your first question was in regards to the budget by cost center, including all sources, correct? And do you want me to just give you the totals for each cost center or break it out by?
No, I think, so you're talking, the question that talks about the gross versus net, is that?
So please provide gross 27 budget that shows the town appropriated funds and outside funds by category.
Yeah, so the point of that question is sometimes in the budget detail, you have an expense item that's whatever, $500,000, but it's a net of $1 million less some funding source. So that's what we're looking to understand, is when there's a net number shown in the budget, to get a gross number and the corresponding number that's bringing it to a net.
Okay. I think maybe it might be more helpful for me to send you the
I think
chart
so,
that I
yeah.
created.
Yep.
Rather than, it'd probably be fairly confusing to talk about.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's too many lines that would have that impact.
Okay. So I'll send that over to you.
Okay.
And then your next question was about, what are some of our assumptions as it relates to the enrollment, staffing needs, and which I think, actually, sorry, that was question 3. Question 2 was about outside funding sources and how do we, what are our assumptions around those outside funding sources. So circuit breaker, we base that on the known students at the time that would be eligible for circuit breaker reimbursement. And we base that on the historical reimbursement rates. So that's how we determine how much circuit breaker we're estimating to receive in the given fiscal year. For our state grants, we pretty much budget based off exactly what we received the prior year. Same thing for federal grants. However, I do want to make a caveat to that we just found out today that the state is anticipating a large decrease in Title I funding overall. And so we just received guidance from DESE to only expect 85% of that. And so when we built the budget, that wasn't known, that wasn't something that was discussed. So that is a change from when we initially created the budget.
What does that translate to dollars?
That is $15,000. Because if you recall, last year, we actually had a $100,000 cut to our Title I. So last year, we lost $100,000 right about the same time, actually. And so then this year, it's an additional 15, at least at this point.
So it's a $15,000 impact to your current budget, right? Because you're assuming 15 more.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Cheryl, can I just ask a question? Do we have any understanding, and Eric, maybe have you heard, anything else on the federal side that could come down and bite us?
Not yet, although there was some information around actually the USDA and them tying some of the federal reimbursements for free meals to whether you have certain gender policies in a school district. But that has, we haven't received any actual information that there potentially might be some implication there, but they are trying to tie free meals to those types of policies.
Okay, thank you.
And then as we talk about revolving funds and how we budget for revenue for revolving funds, it's not a set percent for all of them because some are more predictable than others, as you can imagine. Some are more dependent on user fees, which can fluctuate based off participation, financial assistance, and then, there are families that, don't sometimes pay, and so, collections, right? So building use is fairly consistent for us. There is some fluctuation with building use, but we do have pretty much a lot of the same groups year over year that do rent the buildings. So that we based off about 73% of the prior year revenue. For athletics, we actually, because the school committee has a policy with which the appropriated budget is supposed to carry about 50% of the costs for athletics and the revolving fund 50% of the costs. In order for us to do that, we actually have to budget 100% of the prior.
I'm sorry, Cheryl, I got lost there. Can you go through that one again?
Sure. So for the athletic program here at Swampscott Public Schools, the school committee has had a policy with which they anticipate the appropriated budget carries 50% of the expenditures, and 50% of the expenditures come from the revolving
So
fund.
you're sharing the cost of the athletic program, 50% part of the school budget, 50% to come from user fees effectively?
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
And so because of that, we actually have to, we budget 100% of the prior year athletic fees so that we can get to that, 50-50 split. If that makes sense.
Not yet. But then you net it with revolving funds? Is that
With the revolving fund revenue is, we budget 100% of the prior year's revenue as revenue for the following fiscal year to use.
You just carry over the previous year's number? That's just,
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And didn't we just have, we just agreed to a fairly robust increase in that, including for the first time, the clubs here, we never charged, and we do now. So really, any student who does any extracurricular, we're collecting something. Again, just to try to offset, the coach, the leader, whoever that happens to be.
And then our preschool revolving fund, I'll talk about it a little bit, and Martha, feel free to jump in here, but there are a small portion of students in preschool that we do collect tuition for, and then there's a portion of students that attend by right. And so the number of students that we can collect tuition for can vary, so this is one that's has more variability. And we do pay salaries and staff out of this revolving fund, so we're a bit more conservative when we're doing our revenue assumptions for the preschool revolving fund. And so we budgeted 37% of the prior year revenue for this year coming from the revolving fund.
Okay, can I ask you to just kind of walk through the overall how the preschool is funded, and I'm not sure if myself or the rest of my team fully understands that enough. Just to understand what you were just saying, like, some people are paying, some people aren't, there's a revolving fund involved. Maybe just walk through.
Yeah, so students who qualify for IEPs are free. So they all will attend free. We have 32, 24 full-time slots, which is 8:30 to 12, and we charge $5,000 for a 5-day program. When we look for students who are,
Sorry, we're just talking about the regular preschool program.
those students are considered peer models, so they would be paying in tuition students. So each program would have 7 students with IEPs and 8 peer models.
Okay.
And we have three full-time, so I can get 24, there's 24 open slots per year. Of those 24, we open that up to the community. We are not, but then after they enroll, we do have a sliding fee scale based on financials, so we're not able to predict that once the student enrolls. We might have some students who are free for tuition. We might have some that have a reduced fee, and that varies per year. Sometimes I've had 3 to 4 students who will have a free tuition. Sometimes we have none, but you won't know that until after they're accepted in. So that varies.
So the revenues that are coming into the revolving fund are the tuitions that are coming from whoever has to pay tuition.
Correct.
The costs are all the salaries of the preschool teachers?
Maybe one teacher.
Just one, okay, that's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to understand, it's not,
Yeah. No.
it's just,
It's
most
not.
of it's in the operating budget.
Absolutely.
Correct, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, it might fund one teacher, that's it.
okay, okay.
Can I just start by saying, just again for clarity, just so everyone understands, so anyone who comes in as a 3-year-old who is either with early intervention, is on an IEP, they are by right eligible to attend their district's preschool at no charge. The rest of the seats go to the community, and that's where the $5,000 come in per student.
And our fee is in keeping with what the community private preschools charge.
We just raised that too, right, if I remember from last year?
We did, and we're right where they are.
And then the other revolving fund that we do, we make a revenue assumption on and budget to is our extended day program. And this one we are, again, a little bit on the more conservative side, more in the 30+% range of prior year revenue, because that program is relatively new at the elementary school and they're still building it up. And it is somewhat dependent on staffing, right? Because they have a certain staff to student ratio. And so the program they can only run a program so big, such that they can staff.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're a little bit more conservative when it comes to our extended day revenue assumptions.
And the staff is coming from existing teachers that,
The YMCA staffs it with whomever they
I see,
choose to
okay.
staff it
YMCA
with,
staffing, got it, okay.
if that makes sense.
Can you just, again, just for the finance committee's edification, is how we ended up with the YMCA versus our own program?
So it's actually far more costly for us to run our own program versus having an outside vendor come in and do it. It's a revenue share contract that we have with them. And so we don't have, they're not our staff. We don't have to do health insurance, pension. They bear all the costs, and we just get a percent of the revenue that they generate each month. And they do offer financial assistance, just like we would for families that meet certain income guidelines as well, which is why their revenues fluctuate quite a bit month by month. And some students might be 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, and whatnot. So we're a little bit more conservative there as we watch the YMCA slowly build that program up to the level and the capacity that they want. As you may recall, when it wasn't in one school, it was when it wasn't in the new school, it was only in one school, and the revenue was very small. So I would say that they're still kind of in their building out phase. For extended day, I think this year was our first year. We were trying to see if it was viable for the middle school. Up to this point, hadn't been for the Y. It just wasn't cost effective for them. And so this was kind of a trial year to see if it might be cost effective for them. And if so, perhaps hopefully continuing to build out the middle school extended day program as well too.
So where does the revenue for that program show up?
It goes into an extended day revolving fund. And it's very limited in what we can charge against that, because we don't pay, staff to be at the extended day program. So it's really only facility-related costs, utilities, and basically anything within the facilities cost center at the elementary school, at middle school, is what you could actually charge to that. So that's kind of it as far as our revenue assumptions on our revolving funds. And then for Nahant tuition, we have a contract, so we have a base dollar amount. The only real variable as far as the revenue for Nahant is our special education tuition in portion. But that is actually based, Ms. Raymond has a projection for next year on the tuition, and that's based off our projections for what we anticipate tuitioning in from Nahant for special education services.
So can we just talk a little bit about, just sort of educate FinCom on what can you charge against the revolving account? I know there's some level of decision-making that's gone on, and I don't feel that we understand what those decisions are, and if it's regulated or if there's rules, whatever that plays out.
So there's absolutely rules. There's rules for all revolving funds, some far more stricter, some less stricter. As far as what we can charge the Nahant revolving fund, it's any educational expense related to Nahant students. So it's a little bit more broad in what you're allowed to charge. And so we charge middle school and high school teachers, middle school and high school psychologists, middle school and high school guidance counselors, and educational materials at both middle school and high school.
Do you have to charge the whole person or the whole FTE, or can you say, I'm going to charge 20% of the guidance counselor and just?
You can charge a portion, you can charge the full FTE, we charge the full FTE.
But I guess my question is, I'm assuming that you don't really have Nahant teachers necessarily, right? So you must make a decision what you're going to charge there.
Right, so we try to make it as kind of even between the two locations and similar type teachers, but we pick a teacher because we don't have to say, oh, there's a Nahant student sitting in that class, right? Because they're, spread out amongst the schools. So That's what I mean when I say there's a little bit more flexibility. I don't have to see what classes Nahant students are enrolled in. It just has to be related to effectively education at both locations.
Okay, so why don't we stay on the hunt for a minute, because I think that's obviously been a hot topic and the elephant in the room in some ways maybe, but.
I haven't noticed.
Yeah. So I guess a couple things on that. You know, as kind of the opening comments were, it's like, we're looking at this year is going to be tough. And this is something that we need to be, the Finance Committee feels we need to really understand to be comfortable as far as what kind of recommendation we would make for the overall budget. So I think I had a conversation with you, Glenn. I think we talked about this. Cheryl, when you sent over the information when we asked about the last year's info, what's happening in 2026, what's budgeted to happen in 2027, it showed some numbers basically that said, you know we ended 2025 with a $574,000 balance, right, in that account. This year, you're projecting to end with a $428,000 balance, right? So I guess maybe that's one stopping point to say, okay, what are the decisions that go into that? And if you were to, let me just roll forward to next year before we go back. So
Sure.
In 2027, you would have started the year with $428,000 balance, and you're showing that you're going to charge about $168,000 more against that account than the current year revenue. So you're basically eating into that balance from the previous year, right? You'll end up at 261.
Right.
So that's a question that I think we just want to understand, because it seems to me from what you just explained, you could potentially choose, and correct me if this is wrong, but you could choose to charge another $261,000 of teachers or guidance counselors or whatever to that account and end the year at the end of 2027 at zero.
Correct.
And in theory, need $261,000 less in your appropriated budget from the town. Is that?
That is a choice.
Yeah.
The reason why we would not make that choice is, and I'll just take maybe a little step back to talk about why we ended the year with 574 and why we felt like that was the right decision. So, we thankfully had really positive budget results last budget cycle. We finished the year with 99.3% of the budget spent. And so we had decisions, right, that we could make at that point. We could just spend it on things. We could spend it on prepaid tuition. We could leave it unspent, which it would have all went to the reserve, or we could have spent less out of any of our revolving funds, to be quite frank with you. And so our election was to spend less out of the Nahant revolving fund, because we knew that at that time that we were entering some tough financial years for the town. And so that would allow us some money going into the next couple budget cycles to be able to pull from to have a lower budget ask of the town. And so that was the thought process behind the decision-making when we ended FY '25. And so that is effectively what you're seeing happening, right, with this budget, right? We're pulling against that, lowering our budget ask as we kind of, and so the 260, why I would not recommend that is because what that creates is an issue in FY '28, right? So now we have no balance to pull from to help with our initial budget ask, and we've now programmed positions that we have to pay for over and above the revenue that we are going to be bringing in from Nahant. So I think if you zero it out, then we have nothing to help offset our ask as we go into '28. And I just want to give some kind of overarching information on revolving funds. It's very common for schools to have large balances in revolving funds. A lot of schools have school choice revolving funds and have millions in them. We don't have school choice because we have Nahant, and it's more beneficial for us to tuition in students from Nahant versus choosing to be in school choice. And the reasons why schools carry large balances in revolving funds or school choice is for a couple of reasons. It's one, to try and, help those budgetary asks year over year. It's also, as we talk about volatility and risk in a budget, it helps with that volatility, so that we're not having to consistently come back to the town when things happen that we didn't predict, or maybe we were a little riskier on when we made our budget, and have to ask for additional appropriations. And so that's why school departments have revolving funds with balances in them. And as you look to our neighbor right next door to us, who is going through a very tough financial situation, town and school, if you've read any of the information that's come out of there, they were able to make, now granted things have changed, but their first initial cuts to the budget were by relying on their revolving funds. And they were able to do that with limited staff reductions when they made their first reductions to their budgets. And so schools, when towns get into really tough financial times, then they'll start drawing on those revolving funds so that they're not having to lay off 100 teachers, maybe it's 10 teachers.
But what about the next year when the revolving fund has no money and you still have those teachers?
Well, I would say that I don't think Marblehead has completely zeroed out their revolving funds. They're using some of them, right? And so they're always kind of keeping that a little bit of a balance there.
But so even for when you're talking about how, your logic for doing here, and I think you said there was some structural positions or whatever that have been funded, but let's say you drew this one down another, 150 next year, the remaining 110 the year after. I mean, won't it result in the same problem just a couple of years later, that you've got positions that you don't have this revenue coming into those budgets, but you still have the people?
Well, but yes. However, we are in negotiations with them, and so there's some level of, change to the revenue stream from them, from Nahant.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly what you're thinking, yeah.
Yeah, I understand, yeah.
So, Cheryl, do you have, in a perfect world, have you thought about what level of reserve or excess or surplus or balance you would like to keep in that revolving fund over time?
Well, so there are two communities, Marblehead being one of them. Their policy is a full year of revenue. That's their policy for keeping.
Similar to the circuit breaker.
Yeah.
Correct. Another community that I worked in, it was 5 to 10% of their operating budget. In Ipswich, where I worked, we had about 1.5 million in our school choice. I know that's not something doable here in Swampscott, and I would never, say that's. I'm realistic. I think, ideally, if we could have somewhere around 5% of our operating budget in revolving funds, that is a fair amount. I would say we ended FY25 at 4% overall. So to me, that is it's still small compared to other districts, but it's also still allowing us that ability and that to make sure that we're not having to come back to the town, or, we see all these other communities that they're suddenly $1.5 million in the hole in September, and they're doing layoffs, right? And so that's what these funds are, why school districts have these funds and what they use them for.
So back to when you said, I think you said 2025, we ended, you're talking all revolving funds?
Yes.
All together and take them as a percentage of budget, and we're at like 4%?
Yes.
I'm assuming if you went to 24, that would have been a lower number because of the size of the 574 number, right? That was an unusual
Correct.
number.
Yes.
So, okay, so I just wanted to talk this through because to me, it's still an issue people are talking about, and especially when we talk about, like what I just said, recognizing the future issue, there is money there that in theory we could say, as much as we'd love to have 5% or 4% of these funds in reserve, if we're gonna, you know, have to use excess levy capacity, then there's some logic to say, well, why would we do that if it's gonna mean we're gonna have to tax the taxpayers more money, when we could reduce that tax burden?
I would just say that all you're doing is creating a problem for a following year, right? So it's a short-term solution, not a long-term solution.
I know, but it sounds like we have that problem because we've got funded spots that right now we don't really have a revenue source for, right? We're using some excess revenue from prior years
Right.
to deal with that until maybe things
Well-
get a little bit better.
And I will say that when, you know, and granted, this was kind of last year, and I know that the landscape has changed, but at that time, I think when we were building budgets and talking about budgets last year, we thought we were gonna have 2 years of, you know, pain here. And now it sounds like it's likely gonna be a little bit longer, and so, but we also.
You're just talking about the overall town financial
Yes,
position?
yeah, right. And so we were trying to do what we could to try and build some levers so that we could help as we went through some really difficult financial times here in the community.
When we had the, kind of the mini summit or whatever we call it, when we talked about the fund, I'm not sure where we left, like, who has it in their court to, I don't know if it was a combination of Nick and perhaps you, Jason, or Cheryl, I don't remember, remember we talked about we should probably have a policy, or at least a document that talks about ranges of what collectively people think we should be carrying in these accounts. So we're not like, you know,
Right.
having to say, wait, that's too much, we need to talk
Right.
about it. We know what's acceptable and what needs a broader conversation. Not sure if that's gone anywhere, but that was something we talked about.
Well, I mean, we've definitely talked about it internally.
Yes,
So maybe we need to circle back with Nick or something to get some,
I think that's a good idea.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think, as you said, Eric, I think a real important part of all this is just make sure everyone has everyone has the same information, right? Where you share with us, we share with you, and then I think it's a great idea for you, Jason, Cheryl, to meet with Nick and his team, just to, you know, try to talk through what everyone thinks should be in a protected place. I think it makes all the sense in the world.
I'm not sure I have any more specific questions. Anybody else on FinCom wants to chime in things I haven't covered already, feel free. There's still some things I think we're going to follow up on some of the detailed numbers, as you said at the beginning of your conversation. And just, I'm not sure I have a current version of the special education reserves, and maybe you and I can just talk about getting a updated, you know, what's in that at the end of the year, where we expect it to look at the end of next year.
Okay, sure.
Type of thing.
And we know there was a reduction based on what Nick said at the last select board meeting, but I don't think we know it by cost center. But it sounds from your presentation, Jason, that, you know, there's some flexibility that you have in where it could come from specifically when you're talking about positions or departments, but is it allocated across cost centers, or is it just off the top?
It's just off the top.
Okay.
Like we'll figure that out later based on,
Right.
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just how our budget works.
Right.
It's how, it's not us, it's how all school budget works. Yeah, it's a protection, you know,
Yep.
by law for us. You know, I think just the thing that, you know, I'll add is, you know, we on our side know what, you know where we can go. And when we talk about the 325, pardon me, is really to make sure that nothing happens to the classroom. And, you know, as we've all talked, we don't have a whole lot of flexibility, unfortunately, just because, and same thing with the town side too, right? There's people costs. And, you know, we have large people costs, and you guys have large people costs, and then you have whatever's gonna happen with the insurance, right? Every day you read something completely different. So, if there's any other questions that come up, again, just forward them, and we'll try to get the answers that we can, you know, the best that we can do. And, you know, as always, there's just gonna be sometimes we say, this is our best guess. You know, the people who've done this for a very long time, this is the best guess. We try not to do that, and I know you guys try not to do that too, like with, whether it's police fire overtime, right? It just, it's a little bit of, I don't say it's a maddening thing, it's just, it's a thing, it's one of those things. But we'll work together and we'll get ourselves through this somehow in the next, short time until hopefully something breaks. Any questions from anyone on the board? Nope. Anything else from you guys?
No, I don't think so. I think we're good. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
You want to, you guys want to adjourn?
Yeah, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
There you go.
Second.
All right.
All in favor?
Okay. Anything else on our side? I'll take that as a no. Can someone make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Someone second? All those in favor? Aye. We are out. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.